despite all their efforts, they don't find any success. The artificers are unable to break through the barrier with the artifacts they have currently available. They have tried to contact the Artificers Guild branch in Ediston, but they seem to be preoccupied with their own problems. An artificer proposes that the Mages Guild should contact one of the lances for backup, as they should be able to break the barrier easily with their strength. Unfortunately, all the lances are currently preoccupied with other incidents happening throughout the continent. The artificer accurately deduces that this points to a coordinated attack. However, the mage quickly quiets him down to avoid causing panic among the parents. Putting that aside, the Artificers Guild is currently trying to find a weak spot on the barrier. In the meantime, all they can do is continue their efforts and pray that they are not too late. Meanwhile, inside the barrier, the cultists have trapped all the students. The professor is providing first aid to the injured ones, and everyone else can only wait for their uncertain fate. This is when the leader of the cultists finally makes his appearance while carrying a bloody bag in his hand. The students try desperately to attack him. However, their efforts are in vain as they are too weak to even put a dent in the barrier. The leader cannot help but laugh at their feeble attempts. He mocks them for still not understanding how helpless their situation is. To drive this point home, he puts out the contents of the bloody bag and tosses it towards the students. All of them are left shocked to see that it's a decapitated head. However, what's truly horrifying is that it's none other than Dordrea. Elijah is unable to stomach what he is witnessing and ends up throwing up. Theo becomes furious and quickly makes his way over. He is unable to hold back his tears upon seeing his lifeless friend. Outraged by this, he challenges the leader to a fight, calling him a coward for hiding behind his mana barrier. He is deeply offended by being labeled a coward. He finally takes off his mask and also reveals his name to be Dreneve. He walks over to the edge of the barrier where Theo is standing and pulls him inside as a way of accepting his challenge. Theo is flung into the air, but he quickly regains his footing using his gravity magic. With his rage reaching a boiling point, he charges directly towards Dreneve, intending to kill him. He jumps into the air in an attempt to land a powerful axe kick. There is a loud boom as the attack makes contact. The entire area becomes filled with dust, so no one is able to make out what really happened. However, all the students confidently cheer Theo on, as they believe that not even a professor could have survived such a powerful attack. Their hopes are dashed as the dust finally clears, and they are able to see that it is Theo who is on the ground, writhing in pain with a broken leg. Dreneve steps on his face and mocks him for daring to challenge him. However, he is not done yet. With a snap of his finger, he starts burning Theo alive with his fire magic. However, he makes sure that Theo is alive to ensure maximum pain. The student council, including Lilia, is left horrified by the gut-wrenching sight. Having dealt with this minor inconvenience, he announces the commencement of the main event. Right on cue, the cultists bring out students from different races. This includes Ferrith, who is heavily injured. Elijah is shocked to his core as Lucas finally makes his appearance. This is because he is dragging Tessia behind him. Just like Theo, Curtis finds it impossible to restrain himself as he watches his friends being killed. Claire is compelled to hold him back because she understands that he isn't strong enough to confront Dreneve and will likely end up injured, much like their friend. However, Claire's words only get him angrier as he doesn't want to see Theo and Ferrith end up the same way as Dordrea. Out of nowhere, Kathleen steps in and slaps him across the face to bring some sense into him. Although she is just as heartbroken as Curtis at seeing her friends get hurt, she points out that they need a solid plan to rescue everyone. If they charge in recklessly, then they will only get themselves killed, which will help no one. His sister's words finally bring him back to his senses, and he is able to calm down. Inside the barrier, the cultists force all the captured students to get on their knees, similar to the way when someone is about to be executed. Elijah is most concerned about Tessia. He wonders why she's here when she wasn't even supposed to be in the school. Now that Dreneve has everyone's attention, he finally begins his speech by introducing himself to everyone. He tells them that he has come to rescue them. After taking a seat on a throne he conjures with his fire magic, he elaborates that he has come from a faraway land, one that is cruel to the weak. The students of the Exaris Academy are considered the most elite in Decathlon, but in Alakria they would all be trash. He finally reveals the reason for this attack. He has come to select worthy students. When the ruler of Alakria finally takes over Decathlon as its new ruler, these chosen few will have a place in his kingdom. He tries to entice them with a promise of an unparalleled power that they have never experienced before. As a demonstration, he calls forth Lucas, who steps forward and takes off his hoodie, revealing his monstrous self to all the students. Elijah becomes completely enraged at seeing Lucas betraying them once again. Seeing Elijah so angry, he can't help but smile. To mock him even further, he gets closer to Tessia. Elijah becomes so aggravated that he is unable to contain his killing intent towards Lucas. His body becomes surrounded by a dark aura. Even Draneve is shocked to see this. The dark aura continues to grow even stronger with his growing rage. Elijah is unable to control it, and he unintentionally starts attacking the students around him. His eyes start to glow red, and the dark aura takes the shape of a purple flame all over his body. He effortlessly breaks through the barrier with his newfound power and starts walking towards Lucas. Seeing this, all the mana beasts in the area charge toward him in an attempt to stop him. However, the tables have now turned as Elijah is easily able to kill all of them with just a simple gesture with his hands. Despite the pain, fear welling up inside, and the uncertainty of the situation, the only thing on his mind at this moment is killing Lucas. However, whatever this is, it starts taking its toll on his body. He falls to his knees and starts bleeding from his eyes and nose. He is still undeterred and attacks Lucas with his strange new magic. Due to his weakened state, the attack lands on Lucas's shoulder and it turns out to be non-fatal. Due to the strain on his body, Elijah starts falling unconscious as the magic begins to wear out. However, before he can fall to the ground, he is caught by none other than Draneve. It seems like he has found his first chosen student. Humility, loyalty, resoluteness, and courage were the words that Claire was taught even before she was old enough to speak. They represent the 4 qualities every blade heart needs to have. All her life, she truly believed that she would follow this sacred doctrine, no matter what happened. However, faced with this horror, she finds herself unable to follow through on these morals. With the barrier finally broken, this is the perfect opportunity to attack the cultist and rescue Theo and Ferrith. However, after witnessing Draneve's terrifying power, she is unable to move her body due to fear. Before she can take any action, one of the professors beats her to it. Despite his wounds, Professor Grenner bravely steps forward to attack the cultists while they have this chance. Seeing his determination, Professor Glory also volunteers to help him. Watching the professors boldly walk into the barrier, the only thought that enters Claire's mind is that they are fools walking to their deaths. The disciplinary committee and the student council assemble, awaiting instructions on whether they should accompany the professors or not. However, Claire still hasn't shaken off the fear that has struck her mind. She hesitates to give them any orders as she doesn't want to throw away her life and would rather just let the professors deal with it. However, at that moment, she opts to cast a glance back at the battlefield where Theo and Doradria are lying flat on the ground. Her gaze then shifts to the professors as they continue to advance. Professor Glory notices this and returns a kind, gentle smile full of hope. Watching this, Claire is reminded of everything she has been taught. Finally, she gives everyone their new orders. Those who are injured or scared can stay behind. The rest will fight for Xiris. She uses her fire magic to conjure a blade, while at the same time lighting a new burning flame inside her heart as well. Draneve informs Lucas that there has been a change of plans. He has decided to retreat and orders Lucas to follow behind him after taking out all of the professors. The cultists follow their leader's orders and start gathering the captured students to take them back. Lucas gets frustrated when he sees Draneve carrying Elijah with him. He tries to question him about it. However, he unleashes his terrifying power to assert his leadership over Lucas, solidifying that Lucas is merely a tool beneath him. With that demonstration, Draneve makes his exit while reminding Lucas not to disappoint him. The professors finally arrive and begin their attack on the cultists. They try to attack Draneve as well, to stop him from leaving. However, their attacks are intercepted by Lucas. He is easily able to stop their attack and prepares his counterattack. Professor Glory joins the battle as well and uses her bond to stop the flames. After watching her students and fellow comrades being killed, she is ready to take her revenge. The rest of the cultists mount an attack of their own. They all gather and try to ambush Professor Glory. Despite her burning desire for revenge, even she won't be able to handle so many enemies on her own. Just as they are about to strike, they are all taken out by a barrage of blows. The source of this assault is the disciplinary committee and the student council. They too have come to join the fight. Professor Glory tells them to get away and save themselves. However, with a new fire burning inside her, Claire refuses to do so. Sensing this, the professor accepts their help but still reminds them to be careful. In the chaos of the battle, Claire notices something with the uniform of the disciplinary committee. She instantly realizes that it is none other than Kai. In her rage, she ignores everyone else and heads straight for him. The other cultists try to stop her with their earth magic, but she continues dodging them and charges towards him. Seeing this, Kai finally decides to take action. He uses his strings and easily manages to immobilize her. Even in this state, her rage doesn't cool down and she yells at him about how he can do this to Theo and Doradria. Her screaming stops as she is suddenly struck in the back by something. She doesn't realize what is going on. All she can think about is how they can't allow Dreniv to escape. A few moments later, she can see Curtis and Kathleen rushing toward her with horrified expressions. She tries to tell them to go after Kai, but she is unable to speak and instead coughs up blood. When she looks down, she finally realizes what has happened. She has been pierced clean through with a spike. Curtis arrives and reassures her that he will get her help. He is interrupted by a powerful roar from a powerful mana beast. Everyone's eyes turn towards its direction. They all know that it can only be one person. He has finally arrived, along with Sylvie, having two horns as sharp as swords with crystalline scales, and eyes beaming with power that would make even a veteran adventurer freeze in place. This is how awe-inspiring the dragon was. However, what was even more terrifying was the boy walking in front of her. With every step, there was an unshakable confidence and a fierce blatant rage. At that moment, Claire's only regret was not being able to see Lucas's terrified and defeated expression. With Draniv's elixir, he has achieved something that was considered beyond the capabilities of a normal mage. He has heightened cognitive processing and reflexes for higher levels of spell casting. On top of that, he has an unlimited pool of mana to draw from. However, despite all this, he cannot shake the feeling of fear when facing Art. It's as if there is an icy claw that is gripping him from the inside. Trying to hide these feelings, he puts on a brave face, telling Art that there is no way he can beat him when not even the esteemed professors of the Osiris Academy can do so. Art ignores him completely and walks past him. He goes to check up on Tessia, who is lying behind him. Lucas becomes enraged at being ignored. The other cultists cannot believe their eyes as they witness a dragon in the flesh. After checking her, Art is relieved to realize that Tessia is just unconscious because of some drug that she has been given. Other than a few cuts and bruises, she is completely fine. Now the only thing left to do is deal with the blabbering fool standing behind him. Lucas continues to taunt him, threatening to make him watch as he cripples her right before his eyes. Sylvie gets angry upon hearing this and lets out a powerful roar. However, Art is unshaken and continues to ignore him. Lucas feels insulted upon being ignored by someone he considers nothing more than a mere peasant. Becoming enraged, he starts walking towards Art. Once again, he gets the same feeling he got before. It's like there is an invisible demon holding him down. This presence instills more fear in him than the esteemed professors of the Osiris Academy, even more so than his brother. Art finally starts to speak. He lets Lucas know that he always thought of him as a wasp that he deemed unnecessary to kill. However, when that wasp pulls out its stinger, even the holiest saint would swat it down without a second thought. Seeing the expression on Art's face, Lucas is left terror-struck. The invisible hands grow bigger as they hold him down with even more force. He starts to seethe with anger at his own weakness and conjures a massive fire attack. He launches a powerful attack called Hell's Rain directly toward his enemy. Art unleashes his dragon's will in preparation to counter the incoming attack. Using his ice magic, he is able to effortlessly nullify the fire attack. Lucas is left shocked as Art slowly makes his way towards him. He is surprised to see that Art can use ice magic as well. Lucas once again attacks him, this time forming a trident with his fire magic and launching it toward him. Art responds by conjuring two attacks, one in each hand. On his right hand, he forms black lightning, while on his left hand, he forms an ice attack. He catches the trident using his left hand. This way, the ice magic instantly nullifies the fire magic. With his other hand, he launches a powerful lightning spell toward Lucas. This attack is too fast for him to react to, and it ends up slicing his left arm completely off. He can do nothing but scream in pain as Art continues walking towards him. After finally reaching him, Art lifts him off the ground while grabbing him with his left hand. Because of this, Lucas's right arm gets completely frozen by ice and eventually breaks off. He can't do anything but scream and cry because of the pain. Even after taking both of his arms, Art is not finished. He places his foot on his leg and employs a gravity spell called Downforce to completely crush it. Despite all this, Lucas continues to mock Art, telling him that Dreniv took the fool that he calls his best friend. However, Art doesn't care about what he says and proceeds to take the final leg as well. With all his limbs gone, Art places his leg on his groin. He wants to make sure that Lucas's filth doesn't spread. Upon realizing that he is about to die, he starts begging for his life. However, Art has no sympathy for him. He wishes him to suffer in his next life as well before finally using his downforce spell once again. The looks that Art gets from others are something that he has experienced in his previous life. It's the look that everyone has in the face of domineering strength, the look of fear, shock, and awe. Art had forgotten how lonely it was to be at the top. With his beast will finally wearing off, he starts to feel the usual backlash. Unfortunately for him, his situation gets much worse as the lances finally arrive. This also includes Lucas's brother, Baron. Upon seeing the state of his dead brother, he is unable to control his anger. He launches a powerful lightning spell towards Art and Sylvie. Unable to defend himself due to his weakened state, all Art can do is tell Sylvie to get out of the way. His warning works as Sylvie manages to dodge it just in time. However, Art is not so lucky and gets hit by the spell. Angered by this, Sylvie charges straight towards Baron. Art tries to tell her not to attack because he knows that they are not strong enough to beat the lances. However, Sylvie's anger blinds her to any reasoning and she continues her attack anyway. As expected, she is easily immobilized by Lance Verre as she uses her ice magic. Lance Alfred, on the other hand, uses his magma magic to form golems to assist with the rescue. However, Art is not out of the woods yet. He lies injured on the ground after being hit by the attack. Baron walks over, prepared to finish him off with his next attack. Just as he is about to fire his spell, he is stopped by Lance Alfred. He orders Baron not to lay a hand on him. Blinded by rage, Baron shoves his hand away, telling him that Art killed his brother so he must suffer. He even goes as far as to threaten Lance Alfred if he continues to go against him. Alfred doesn't take kindly to his threat and reminds him that Art saved everyone here from Lucas. Baron refuses to believe it and goes ahead to finish Art all the same. Alfred is forced to take extreme measures and uses 2 of his magma golems to pin him down. This only succeeds in increasing Baron's rage, and he launches a powerful attack that blows the 2 golems away. It seems like there is nothing that can save Art at this point. Just as he fires the spell, a huge wall of ice suddenly erects between Art and Baron. It stops the spell, saving Art from certain death. This is followed by ice swords that completely pin Baron to the ground. The mage responsible for this is none other than Lance Verre, the leader of the Lances. She reminds Baron that it's the council's job to determine what will happen to Art and Sylvie. Unlike Alfred, Baron doesn't dare defy her orders and instantly agrees to step down. After a while, the rescue teams finally arrive, and the mages begin healing all the injured students. Some parents are relieved to see that their kids are safe, while others have to deal with the devastating loss of their family. This also includes Doradria's parents. Art also receives medical attention for his injuries. Afterward, he is visited by Lance Verre, who informs him that he will need to be handcuffed. Having no other choice, he complies and puts on the cuffs without any resistance. Just to make sure he doesn't escape, Lance Verre seals away Art's mana cord to prevent him from using magic. He requests that she do the same for Sylvie so she can be more comfortable. Verre is shocked to learn that Art's bond is a dragon. Nevertheless, she agrees to Art's request and releases Sylvie from her ice magic. Sylvie is still angry at the Lances, but he once again reminds her that they can't win as they are right now. This time she agrees to do as Art says and turns back to her fox form. She is worried about what will happen to them, but this is something that even Art doesn't know the answer to. However, he assures her that they will be fine. Art is taken in chains along with Sylvie. He is being taken to the Mage Guild's camp while they wait for the council's decision. Rumors have already begun flying around about how Art killed a student from one of the most influential families in all of Decathlon. Even though everyone knows that Lucas was part of the terrorist group, they still question the brutal way that he met his end. Art's family also arrives at the Exiris Academy. He asks for permission from Lance Verre to go see them. This is much to the annoyance of Baron, who is still angry at Art for killing his brother. Lance Alfred tries to calm him down by pointing out the fact that what Art did was necessary to protect the students. Alice has a lot of questions for Art, like what happened at the school and why he is in handcuffs. In return, he gives her a warm smile and tells her that he will only be gone for a while. Despite this, Alice can't help but break down in tears seeing her son like this. A few minutes pass and Lance Verre's ring starts glowing, indicating that the council has finally made its decision. Art is brought to the center of the crowd and Lance Verre starts reading out the decision from a scroll. The council has decreed that, Due to displaying excessive violence and the inconclusive circumstances involved, Art's mana core is to be restrained and his title as a mage to be stripped. He will also be imprisoned until further judgment. Art is very disappointed to hear this, more for the worries that he has provided his family than the actual punishment he has to face. The whispers start once again. As expected, Alice is completely distraught upon hearing that her son is being sent to jail. The same goes for Ray. The surviving students have mixed reactions, with some believing that he is a hero who saved everyone while others believe that he got what he deserved. Kathleen is furious upon hearing this and walks up to Lance Verret to confront her directly. She threatens to tell her parents, the king and queen, and make sure to have it rescinded. However, she is stopped in her tracks when Verret shows her the scroll, revealing that King and Queen Glader voted in favor of this judgment. The king and queen of the dwarves also agreed to it. Kathleen is in total disbelief. Curtis consoles her and lets her know that there is nothing they can do right now. Art also realizes that there is no use trying to reason with the Lances if two kingdoms voted in favor of this decision. He also realizes that everyone must have the wrong impression of him. Perhaps they think it was him who was behind the attack. Before they leave, Art requests Lance Verret to allow him to see his family one last time. She agrees to it, and he walks over to the gate of the school to see his parents. Even though he doesn't believe it himself, he lets them know not to worry and assures them that it's just a misunderstanding that will be cleared up soon. However, once again, Alice is able to see right through his deception. The next one to speak up is Ellie. She is worried about her brother as well, but can't seem to find the words to express it. Art pats her on the head. He wishes that he had spent more time with her. Same as before, he assures her that he will only be gone for a little bit. He assures everyone that he will certainly return, and with that, he starts heading back. Before he can leave, Ray calls out to him. He lets him know that no matter what happens, his family will always be on his side. He is brought to tears by his father's words, but he continues walking all the same. The Lances are busy coming up with a strategy on how to proceed. As soon as Art arrives, they stop their meeting and proceed with whatever plan they come up with. Baron starts walking toward his brother's body. As he passes by Art, he gives him a scornful look. He picks up Lucas's body and flies away using his lightning magic. Lance Verret and Alfred proceed with their own plan to escort Art. Alfred conjures up a stingray using his magma magic. The Golems help Art as he tries to get on. After everything is ready, all of them fly off to the location where Art is going to be kept. Baron, on the other hand, arrives at the Wykes mansion. He is greeted by all the servants upon landing. He kicks through the front gate, startling everyone. The maids are surprised at seeing what Baron is carrying in his arms. With an angry expression, he orders the maids to call his father at once. After waiting for a while, he finally gets to meet his father. He explains everything that happened. However, instead of being sad at the news of his son's passing, Baron's father is angry and screams out in frustration about how Lucas is an embarrassment to the family. He is more concerned about the reputation of his family name and all the investment he put into making Lucas as strong as he was. He goes as far as to get furious at Baron for bringing this worthless fool back to his house. To have a failure such as Lucas in his house is the same as defilement to him. He tries to slap Baron for this offense, but he stops him from doing so. He reminds his father that he is a Lance now, so this sort of behavior is unacceptable. However, his father is quick to remind him that he is a Lance only because of the Wykes family name. Baron continues the story about how Lucas terrorized the school alongside a cult led by a man named Drenive. He also mentioned how he was brutally killed, but that is of no interest to this man. After hearing everything, he quickly comes up with a plan. He calls his assistant, Adeline, to the room. She quickly responds and promptly enters. He orders her to write a letter to the council. The content of the message goes something like this. Regarding the regrettable attack on Ixyrus, my dear son, under the influence of Drenive, undoubtedly had no choice but to obey his commands or lose his life. How a boy so young would be forced to make such a decision, it hurts my heart to imagine. Yet my son died an excessive, brutal death at the hands of a lawless blackguard unfit to continue living in our society. He says all this with a pitifully sad expression on his face. He continues the letter. No other form of repentance than death would be appropriate. After he's done with the letter, he even pressures Baron to agree with what he is saying. Not daring to refuse his father, he nods and agrees with everything. Adeline offers her condolences and leaves the room to deliver the letter. Baron asks his father about what sort of funeral they will have for Lucas. However, he couldn't care less and tells him to have Adeline take care of it. Baron gives him a respectful bow and leaves. Elsewhere, Art continues his journey with the lances. He is riding with Lance Alfred on his stingray. Art tells him that the handcuffs are unnecessary because he isn't stupid enough to try and run away from two lances. Alfred reveals that the cuffs are because they are flying over the beast glades. There are other ways he can cause trouble for them. He is a bit surprised to hear this. He wonders what sort of mana beasts exist in the beast glades that not even a lance can handle. Alfred reminds him that although the lances are powerful, they are still mortal. Beast glades hold many mysteries, and with all the strange things that have been occurring, they don't want to take any risks. There is something that Alfred is curious about as well. He wonders how Art has become such a capable mage at his age. Art inquires about how Alfred has reached that conclusion even though he has never seen him fight. Alfred reveals that he heard many great things about Baron's little brother. Art asks him about what things he specifically heard given the fact that he is still escorting him to prison. Alfred agrees with Art. He probably believes that he is innocent, but it's not up to him. A short while after their conversation ends, they finally arrive at their destination. It's the floating castle of the council. Upon landing on the island, Alfred creates a bridge for them to enter. He uses some dirt that he always carries around with him. He lets Art know that dwarves usually carry a bit of dirt with them. This way he doesn't have to worry about destroying the castle to use his magic. Since no magic can be used inside the castle, Lance Viray informs Art that they will have to use the stairs. After a long walk, they finally arrive at the inside of the castle. He is reminded of his past life as he walks down these long, empty corridors. Despite their beauty, they exude a sense of loneliness. Art is taken to the council meeting room where the kings and queens of each of the three kingdoms are waiting for them. The feelings about Art are clear on their faces. The king and queen Glader aren't really affected by this, since they remain neutral in all this. The dwarven king and queen are visibly angry. It's obvious that they hate him the most, while the elven king and queen seem to be nervous. They care for Art and want the best for him. The two lances offer a bow to the council. Art follows their lead and does the same. However, it's not good enough for the dwarven king Dossid. He wants Art to kneel down since he is a commoner, unlike the lances. Art apologizes and expresses that he is uneducated. But his words are clearly sarcastic, which angers Dossid even further. Before this could get out of hand, King Glader quickly puts a stop to this so they could get started. Lance Viray uncuffs him, and the judgment finally begins. King Alduin starts the proceeding with his speech. Before getting to the official matter, he once again thanks Art not just as a king, but as a father. He is interrupted as the dwarven king angrily slams his fist on the table. The queen also shares her husband's sentiments and lets everyone know that Art violently mutilated a student and shouldn't be thanked in any way. To drive this point home, Dossid brings out the report again and starts reading out the gruesome details of Lucas's death. Alduin stops him before he continues any further. Muriel emphasizes to everyone that Art took the actions he did to save the students of the Osiris Academy. But Dossid isn't convinced. He accuses Art of using the incident as a cover to get revenge on his rival. The exchange between the Dwarven King and the Elven King continues to get heated. Alduin counters this claim by correctly pointing out that these are just speculations without any evidence. Since they don't have evidence for either case, the Dwarven Queen, Glaudera, suggests sparing Art's life, but instead crippling him as a mage by sealing away his mana core. The heated argument continues between the two kings. Muriel decides to involve the king and Queen Glader, hoping that they can also see the sense in letting Art go. However, the queen points out that although she is also thankful to Art as a parent, as rulers they have to consider the Greysunder's point of view as well. Alduin can't understand their way of thinking at all. After all, they want to cripple a boy on the off chance that he might turn against them in the future. As the argument continues to intensify, it slowly starts to get personal. Art finally decides to speak up to let his thoughts be known as well, but Dossid is quick to shut him up. Art points out that the whole reason for him being here is so he can defend himself. Glaudera is not one to listen though, and she orders Alfred to lock him up in the dungeon. However, Alduin lets them know that the council is not for them to run. In his anger, he orders his lance, Aya, to step forward. After losing Aaliyah, the elves only have one lance at their disposal, which is a big disadvantage. Dossid is well aware of this fact. Alduin too is aware, and so despite his anger, he is forced to retake his order. Following Glaudera's order, Art is escorted out of the hall by Alfred's golems. After witnessing everything, he has become well aware of the situation. He now knows that the Dwarven King and Queen are against him. The Gladers are neutral at best. This means he can only depend on Alduin and Muriel to get him out. However, one has to wonder if that would be enough. After locking him in the dungeon cell, Alfred leaves to resume his duties. After a short while, Art hears a voice calling out his name. This is a voice he is much too familiar with. It's none other than Cynthia. She has been imprisoned here for the last 7 days. Even the news of the attack in the school was kept from her. Art decides to tell her everything that happened. After all, it is her school. However, one thing that he still didn't understand was why she was locked up here in the first place. Cynthia is grateful to him for letting her know everything. She also apologizes that he had to deal with it on his own. She asks him to let her know more about how Lucas appeared when they were fighting. Art tells her that he was on the same drug that had been going around the school. However, he was different from the rest. Lucas was more powerful, but he wasn't out of control like everyone else. He knew what he was doing. Cynthia also asks him about the leader. The leader had left before Art arrived, so he never got the chance to see his face. She asked this because she wanted to confirm a few things. However, she now understands everything. It was bound to happen, but she didn't expect it to happen this soon. Art becomes curious about her choice of words. He asks her what she meant when she said it was bound to happen. However, she chooses to remain silent. Based on this, he starts to form a conclusion, one that he hopes is wrong. He suspects that Cynthia might be involved in all of this. However, she lets him know that the council has made her the scapegoat for the incident. She has realized that the council intends to shift the blame onto her for the incident to divert attention from the actual problem. She is very careful not to mention the details. She reveals that she is bound by her curse to stay silent. The more she talks about it, the more painful it gets. Even now, she can feel the curse slowly activating. Art gets angry by this. However, there's nothing he can do. He simply expresses his gratitude for whatever information she did provide. After the meeting, King Glader is sitting in his room drinking wine. He's visited by Dossid, who's furious about how things proceeded during the judgment. It is revealed that the two kings had an agreement. Through this agreement, they have agreed to work together to make sure that Art's mana core gets restrained. As they continue their conversation, a much darker truth is revealed. It seems that both the human king and the dwarven king are working together with the enemy to ensure their own survival. They have agreed to bring Art to Alakria in exchange for handsome rewards. Unlike the dwarven king, the human king seems to have some sense of guilt because he realizes that this means they would be betraying the entire population. Dossid, on the other hand, believes that the whole continent is doomed to total annihilation. He believes that there will be no one left to betray, so they might as well salvage what's important to them. This is obviously an excuse he has made up to justify betraying Dicathan. Dossid is completely captivated by the idea of having infinite wealth, strength, and immortality. That's his reason for backstabbing his people. King Glader, on the other hand, claims that he's doing this for the sake of his family. His wife's love for their children outweighs her concerns for the entire human kingdom. He also feels the same way, as he believes that his only duty is to preserve the Glader bloodline. They were promised luxuries by the ruler of Alakria, but that doesn't matter to Blaine. The only thing he ever wanted in his life was to become the strongest mage in Dicathan. Also, he can make his ancestors proud. However, his talent as a mage was subpar at best. Even with the countless elixirs and aids, he was only able to break into the red stage. He caught himself envious of his wife and even his own children. Even so, he had seen how his father was blinded by power, so he promised himself that he would never lose sight of why he wanted to be strong in the first place. It's also he can maintain peace and protect his family and his people. But even now, having the control of 2 lances, his feeling of inferiority has not subsided. Even he is doubtful whether he's making this decision to protect his family or whether he wants power like Dossid. Blaine throws away the wine glass in anger and lies down on the floor. He's reminded of his first meeting with Art. He believes that perhaps the only thing greater than Art's strength is his bad luck at being involved in this conspiracy. Blaine tries to convince himself that it's for the greater good. Indeed, this is the case. However, it's not for the benefit of the continent as a whole, but rather for the selfish interests of the human king. Art has a nightmare about being stuck in a creepy jungle. He makes his way to a castle in the middle of the forest. However, upon reaching the gate, he finds that it's locked and sees a bunch of crows, and they seem to be eating something. He follows them to find out what it is. After climbing the castle wall, he finally reaches the top. He is horrified to see his family's decapitated heads on spikes. Art becomes terrified and wakes up from his sleep, trembling. He is visited by Lance Aya. She communicates with him telepathically and instructs him not to say anything. She does this while handing him a letter. Art follows her instructions and takes the letter from her hand without saying a word. The letter is from Alduin. He reveals something truly horrifying. He mentions that the scale of this incident is much deeper and more sinister than he had thought. He doesn't have the time to explain it in detail, so he jumps directly to the main point. He reveals that the council will declare him and Cynthia the perpetrators of this attack. He knows this because he overheard the conversation between Dawsid and Blaine. The two of them are planning to hand Art over to someone alive. Alduin has sent Virion to take Art's family to a secret hideout to keep them safe. He apologizes as this is all he can do for him right now. As soon as he finishes reading the letter, it disappears into thin air. It seems this was a security measure, so no one else would find out. After a short while, Baron comes to escort him to his sentencing. While the two of them are waiting outside the door to the hall, Baron lets him know that he's looking forward to the trial. He wants to see Art in chains, and afterward he even promises to treat his family with the same care that he showed his brother. But now that Art knows his family is safe, he doesn't care at all. He shames the Lance for trying to pick a fight with a 13-year-old. Baron gets angry and grabs him by the collar. However, Art remains unaffected. He points out how the mighty Lance Baron has fallen so low as to threaten innocent families and take vengeance for his lunatic, murderous brother. He has no words to reply and tosses Art aside. The door to the hall finally opens slightly, and Art is able to catch the final moments of Cynthia's sentencing, where she is sentenced to a public execution. He is horrified to hear this. Cynthia is escorted out of the hall by armored guards. Now it's finally Art's turn. Dawsid pulls out a scroll and starts reading the sentence. The council has agreed that Art's actions were for the greater good. Considering this fact, he's given the following punishment. His title as a mage will be stripped, and with that, he will no longer be able to enjoy the benefits that come with it. Art is also to be imprisoned until further notice. This was all expected because of Alduin's letter. Blaine clarifies that they will be monitoring the victims. As soon as the events have dissipated from everyone's minds, Art will be released. He realizes that this is all a cover-up to keep him alive long enough so they can deliver him alive to the Alacrian ruler. Art inquires about what will happen to Sylvie. Glaudera gets infuriated and calls him ungrateful for having his life spared. Alduin clarifies that since Art will be stripped of his title as a mage, he will no longer be able to keep his bond. He gets angry, but there is nothing he can do in this situation. After the sentencing is over, he is taken back to his cell by Baron. It's obvious that the Greysunders are more than happy to be helping the Vritra. Upon reaching his cell, Art is visited by an unexpected guest. This visitor is none other than Winsome. In another part of the castle, the Greysunders are celebrating their success. The king couldn't be happier believing that his people had been chosen to lead this continent into a new era. Growing curious, Glaudera asks her husband about the ruler of Alacria. Dawsid responds by telling her that he is an incredibly powerful being. He has faced many mana beasts in his time. Those encounters have brought him close to death many times. However, he never felt as scared as he was in the presence of his mysterious ruler. He even goes as far as to describe him as a god. While they are talking, they hear a loud bang which interrupts their little chat. The source of the sound is a mysterious man who has entered the room. He lets them know that he has been sent here to eliminate them. While saying this, he forms a powerful attack with his third eye and launches it towards the couple. The attack makes contact, making it seem like the Greysunders have been vaporized. However, in reality, the attack was blocked by Ulfred, who has come to rescue the king and queen. The mysterious man warns him that he doesn't want to create needless bloodshed, but Ulfred refuses to back down. He attacks the man by forming golems all around him. These golems try to restrain the man, however, they fail miserably. All the golems are instantly vaporized by a simple swing of the hand. Once again, Ulfred refuses to step down and forms a suit of armor around himself so he can continue fighting. The Greysunders get excited after seeing this, believing that the lance will win. Their hopes shatter as Ulfred attempts to attack the man, but the man effortlessly blocks the attack using his barrier without breaking a sweat. He counters by releasing a huge burst of mana, which sends the man flying backward. The man casually walks up to him and fires a small purple orb from his finger. This creates a huge blast that knocks Ulfred out instantly. With that done, he once again proceeds toward the Greysunders to eliminate them. However, he's interrupted. This time it's Mika. She attacks the man with her gravity magic. She attacks using a giant weapon. However, she is unable to do anything as well. Although she uses her gravity magic to make the man weigh more than 4 tons, he is still able to easily walk around. This alone is sufficient to demonstrate how much stronger he is. However, she refuses to give up and continues her attack, and is knocked out in a similar way as Alfred. With one powerful beam from the tip of his fingers, the man is able to create a huge attack that knocks her unconscious in one go. Now that both the lances have been knocked unconscious, the Graysunders are left defenseless. Having no other choice, they get down on their hands and knees and beg for their life. They beg for mercy, promising to do anything. The man responds to their pleas for forgiveness and tells them to release their lances from their oath. The king doesn't even think about it twice, even though he was always taught that the oath should never be released. He rips off the necklace around his neck, which releases the 2 lances from their oaths. However, despite doing all this, man still decides to kill them. With a powerful beam from his third eye, he is able to pierce the king's heart all the way through. He does the same thing to the queen as well, and with that, the rulers of the Dwarven Kingdom have met their end. Winsome comes to the cell while carrying Sylvie in his arms. Art is happy to see her and is grateful to him for this. Winsome, on the other hand, is a bit disappointed. He didn't expect Art would get caught so quickly. He admits that although his actions were admirable when he saved the Academy, he tells him to prioritize his and Sylvie's well-being above all. But what's done is done. One thing that Winsome still doesn't understand is why did Dreniv take Elijah with him? This is something Art doesn't know either, but he intends to find out. The deity is unhappy and reveals that through their investigation, they have discovered that Elijah has been taken to Alakria. He reminds Art that he cannot even escape a mere prison cell on his own, so going to Alakria would be suicide. Despite this, he still wants to follow him to save his friend. However, he also knows that Winsome's advice is right, so he puts his plans aside and asks for guidance on what he should do. Winsome tells him that he is lucky that Dreniv left before he arrived. If he had found out about Sylvie, then even the Asuras would have had a hard time keeping him safe. This, however, doesn't answer Art's question. He can't conceal his family with the lances tracking his mana signature. Hiding in the beast glades is also not an option due to the unusual mana beasts, so he asks Winsome one more time about what he should do. Before they can continue talking, their conversation is interrupted by the sudden arrival of Baron. He is furious to see Winsome and asks if he is with the other intruder. Winsome doesn't feel a need to hide his identity and replies affirmatively. Baron doesn't waste a second and launches a powerful attack called Flash Ray. However, the powers of Asuras are too great for them to be affected by a normal attack. With a single motion of his hand, Winsome completely neutralizes the attack. He is shocked to see this. However, he doesn't give up and tries to attack once more, but the result is the same. Before they can continue fighting, Lance Ray arrives on the scene and orders Baron to stop. This is because she has figured out the identity of the man standing before her. She bows down to the deity and apologizes for their actions in attacking him. She informs him that the kings and queens of the council want to meet him. In the meeting hall, everyone is waiting other than the Graysunders, of course. The other Asura introduces himself to everyone. His name is Alder. To put things simply, he and Winsome have been sent here to help the people of the Cathan, so they have a fighting chance against Alakria. Alduin is shocked to learn that their speculations about an upcoming war are true. Alder continues talking and informs everyone that he has already taken the first steps by eliminating the corrupted and releasing their lances. He turns his head to look at the Gladers while mentioning that they have gracefully decided to look past any misguided decisions that may have been made. Blaine can feel his heart in his throat as he knows what Alder is talking about. He puts aside his fear and asks a question that everyone wants to know the answer to. He asks Alder if they can't just go to Alakria by themselves and defeat the Vritra. This way there won't be any need to involve what they refer to as the Lesser. However, Alder reveals that it's much more complicated than that. The Vritra clan has former Asuras who broke their law. An all-out battle against them would level the entire world, which defeats the purpose of trying to save everyone. The Asuras and the Vritra clan have agreed to a treaty. This means that no higher being can directly attack or interfere with any lesser beings. However, Art correctly points out that killing the Graysunders is a violation of this treaty that Alder just mentioned. Realizing his mistake, he has no words to form a reply. Winsome changes the topic, saving Alder from embarrassment. He explains that Alakria is being ruled by a Grona from the Vritra clan. He isn't stupid enough to break the treaty for them to be leveling the playing field. Art gets visibly frustrated and asks them about the Blackhorn demons that have been invading Decathan for years. These are the same ones that killed Aaliyah. Cynthia brings out the purple fragment and asks Art if he is talking about the owner of this. Alder is surprised by how much Art knows. He tells everyone that these demons are not asuras. They were once lesser beings like everyone else in this room. These monsters are limited and are Agrona's trump card in this war. Now that Agrona is aware that the asuras are present in Decathan, he will not dispatch them so recklessly again. Alder lets the council know that they can think of him as a general in the upcoming war. Winsome and Art decide to leave the room as they have a few things to take care of. Winsome lets him know that they are going to visit his parents so he can say his goodbyes. The deity reveals that it's finally time for him and Sylvie to start their training in Ethiovis. Winsome teleports them at a distance from where his parents are staying. This is a precautionary measure. If he had teleported directly there, then the barrier protecting Art's family would have broken. Hence, they decide to walk there on foot. Winsome informs him about the Great Eight that reside within Ethiotis. These are the 8 races that live in the land of Asuras. Each race comprises of multiple clans, but only one clan from each race is considered one of the High 8. Vrutra is part of the Basilisk race. The rest of the clans tried to assassinate Agrona, but they failed to do so. Winsome explains that Agrona is too dangerous to consider a treaty with. They had no idea about what he was doing in Alakria. All the clans came to a collective decision that it was best to eliminate Agrona while they still could. Before continuing, he reveals that what he is about to tell him is something only a few members of the Indrath clan know, so it must be kept a secret at all costs. At that time, Sylvie traveled down with the elite division to defeat Agrona. Art is surprised that they allowed her to go even though they knew nothing about Agrona at that time. However, the leader of the Indrath clan hadn't allowed her to do anything. Despite this, she concealed herself and snuck onto the team. She only revealed herself when it was too late for her to return. As for how she was captured and why she hid herself in that cave even after escaping, Winsome is not sure either. As for the matter of what happened to the elite division, they were all wiped out. Agrona had realized what the Azura were planning, and he was waiting for them with a large army, consisting not only of basilisks, but also of lesser races that had the same innate magical abilities as the Asuras. The Vrutra clan had been interbreeding with the lesser races on Alakria. The Indrath clan found themselves completely outnumbered. All their members were either killed or captured. Agrona appeared before the leader of the Indrath clan to personally deliver the news of Sylvia's death. Furious by this, the leader was ready to wage war, but the other clans pushed for a treaty. It prevented the Asuras from acting directly because of the collateral damage it would cause. As they discuss this, they slowly close in on the hidden location. Art is able to deduce the real reason why the 6 artifacts were given to the people of Decathan. It was to create a more even battlefield between Alakria and Decathan. This is where Art comes in as well, a chess piece for the Asura in this war. They finally arrive at the location of the hideout. Winsome asks him if he has considered how he will break the news of his departure to his family. Indeed he has. Art arrives at the location of Rinia's house where his family is enjoying a nice dinner while sitting around the campfire. Upon seeing Art, they forget all about it and quickly run towards him. All of them embrace him, happy that he has come back unharmed. Their happiness quickly turns into fear as they feel a powerful presence in the cave. However, they don't need to be alarmed as it's none other than Winsome. Art introduces him as the man who saved him as well as his prospective teacher. Rinia is aware of who he is and quickly bows down to welcome him. Both Ray and Alice are thankful to Winsome for saving their son, even though they're still fearful. Now joined by Art, they sit around the campfire to enjoy their dinner properly this time. They all have a wonderful time. However, all good things must come to an end. After finishing dinner, Art requests to talk to his parents privately. Both Alice and Ray accompany their son to the next room. The 2 parents begin to get worried about what is going on. Before he tells them about his departure, there is something that he would like to tell them first, something he has wanted to tell them for a long time. It's finally time that he reveals the truth about his previous life to his parents. Alice is confused about what he is talking about. Art clarifies that he wasn't simply born into this world, he was teleported here from another one. Ray is confused and tells Art to back up a bit. Alice is also horrified by what she hears. She begins to worry that maybe her son is not fine. She asks him if he heard this nonsense from that new teacher of his. However, Art clarifies that no one knows about this except the people in this room. He continues explaining that it was something akin to reincarnation. Alice still can't believe this and wonders if something happened to him while he was away. However, Ray seems to have started connecting the dots. He asks Alice to let Art continue his story. He describes his previous world, the role he played there, and the relationships he had. He describes all this in great detail, so there is no doubt about whether he is making it up or not. Throughout all this, both Ray and Alice kept silent. Ray had a few questions here and there while Alice silently stayed in her seat. The trembling of her hands grew more and more as the story went on. It seemed like hours had passed until finally, the story ended. Ray inquires about his fighting and his talent as a mage. Art explains that it was because the chi system in his previous world was quite similar to the mana system in this world. Alice can't believe what she is hearing and breaks out into a small chuckle, with tears rolling down her eyes. She tells Art that he is obviously joking. Her fondest hope is that this is all just a cruel joke. Art can't even bring himself to look her in the eyes while telling her that this is not a joke. Alice has a flashback of all the loving memories she has of her son. In just one moment, it all seemed like they weren't real. Ray embraces her and tries to comfort her. However, the shock of this news is much too great. Art decides to leave the room and let them digest this news. He goes back outside to spend some time with Ellie before his eventual departure. Ray finally comes out of the room and asks Ellie to look after her mother. Before leaving, she gives Art a big hug. He tells him to always come back no matter where or how long he will be gone. Ray and Art decide to head to the back of the cave so they can have some privacy. Art asks him about Alice. Ray replies by telling him that she is in quite a bit of shock. Next, Art questions whether he believes him or not. Ray believes him as he has no reason to lie. More importantly, it all finally makes sense. His early awakening and his brilliance as a mage, it all make a lot more sense. He seems disappointed as he hangs his head low. Art asks him if he is fine. This is when Ray finally starts letting out all the emotions that he has kept hidden because of Alice. He is obviously not fine. How can he be when he has been told something like this? He questions whether all the memories they have were just a facade. He wonders if Art just acted in a way he thought a perfect son would act. Ray doesn't even know how to act around him anymore. Technically, Art is even older than him. The worst part of all this is the torment it has caused Alice. She mothered a middle-aged man thinking he was her son. Ray takes out his frustration by punching a wall. His anger is evident by how much damage he caused. With blood dripping down his hands, Ray questions whether Art really is his son or did he take over the unborn baby that would have been their son had he not reincarnated. Art can't even call him Dad anymore and address him as Reynold. He explains that he doesn't know it himself. He is not sure how the process of reincarnation works, so it's possible that he did take over his unborn son. He wanted to tell them this for a long time, but he never had the courage to do so. Art finally lets him know that he will be leaving. Considering the circumstances, it might even be a good idea. He will be gone for at least a few years. Art starts walking away, but before he leaves, he wants to let him know something. Art tells him that he never had any memories of his family in his previous life. Growing up without being loved made him a greater fighter, but a crappy person at the same time. Ever since he came into this world, both Ray and Alice taught him something very special. Even though he may not be the strongest in this world, he is a much better person than he ever was in his previous life. He apologizes for all the hurt he has caused and thanks him for making him a better person. Hearing this, Ray is moved to tears. He also thanks him for loving him as his son. With that heartfelt thank you, Art leaves to meet Winsome. He goes back to the campfire where Rinia and Winsome are waiting. Art lets him know that he is ready to leave. However, Rinia tells him that he can't leave without saying goodbye to his family. Art feels there is no need for that. He thanks her for everything and tells her to take care of his parents. As he begins to walk away, she stops him. She lets him know that his expression is much too frightening for someone as kind-hearted as him. She understands the gravity of the upcoming war, but she still implores him not to fall back to his old ways, possibly hinting at the fact that she is also aware of Art's previous life. With everything taken care of, Winsome prepares the portal to Epheotis. He places something on the floor, and as soon as he adds his blood to it, it starts glowing brightly. Art can't help but think about what Rinia said. He asks Winsome about his expression earlier. Winsome lets him know that his expression reminded him of the